In the exhibition Listen to This Story, one of the things that we wanted to think about was power hierarchies and how British children's literature over time favored certain groups of people over others. Adults write children's literature, but also in terms of race hierarchies and class hierarchies. So when we put the exhibition together, we looked at abolitionists who wrote books to have children pity the enslaved people in Jamaica, in Barbados, in the British Empire. But we also wanted to look at the rebels who existed at the time. And one of those was a fellow named Jack Mansong, also known as Three-Fingered Jack, the Terror of Jamaica. Now, he was a real person. We don't really know a lot about him. We know he was enslaved. He ran away from slavery and joined the Maroons, who were a group of rebels who lived in the Blue Mountains of Jamaica. But beyond that, and the fact that he lost two of his fingers in a fight, giving him the nickname Three-Fingered Jack, and that he was a thorn in the side of the British Empire, we don't know a lot. The British put a 300-pound price on his head, and he was eventually killed in 1781. Now, this matters to children's literature because within 20 years, a play was on the British stage about Jack Mansong, which was called Obi, or Three-Fingered Jack, the Terror of Jamaica. And it's interesting to look at how the British experienced Jack as compared to the Jamaican people. The British, in this pantomime, had Three-Fingered Jack as a violent man who had to be destroyed. It was a pantomime just similar to the pantomimes that we have now, based on figures like Aladdin or Cinderella, but it was designed for the British audience of the time, who was afraid of rebellion in the colonies. So straight through the 19th century, you had Three-Fingered Jack as a pantomime, and pantomimes in the Victorian period also came with toy theaters. So children got to enact the story of Three-Fingered Jack and had the white British captain defeating Jack, even though that's not probably what happened. They had the white British heroine saved by the white British captain, and Three-Fingered Jack, who was the protagonist of the story, was also the villain of the story. And so in British children's literature, this is how he's portrayed. And we know that children played with these toy theaters because Robert Louis Stevenson, who wrote A Child's Garden of Verses and Treasure Island, had a copy of the toy theater for Three-Fingered Jack and enjoyed playing with it. He talks about that in his memoirs. Now, by the time that the 20th century came around, Three-Fingered Jack had sort of faded out of the pantomime catalog, and this was primarily because the Caribbean was not as important to Britain as it had been. But in Jamaica, he became a figure very much like Robin Hood, who was somebody who had attacked the British, and the legends that grew up around him were not so much focused on his violence, although the violence was there, but on the fact that he was avenging his parents who had been captured into slavery from Africa. And he wanted to avenge that, and so he came out. And Clinton Black in Tales of Old Jamaica, which is for adults, he was the archivist for the National Library of Jamaica, and he wrote the story on which our story that's in the exhibition is based, the Three-Fingered Jack story that was a reading book for children. And in that story, he's shown as a hero, somebody who defied oppression, who defied the colonialism, imperialism, and racism of the British. And that's how he's seen even today. There are blue plaques to him in Jamaica. And so we have the same character who was a part of both British and Caribbean children's literature, but depending on your perspective, were shown in very different ways.